Alright, so we're going to go ahead in this video and install and configure IntelliJ for the Linux platform. So again, a reminder that this is the Linux video. Check out the other videos in this section if you're running Windows or a Mac computer. Alright, so now that we've installed the JDK, the Java Development Kit, in the last video, we now need to install the IntelliJ IDEA product, which is the IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, that we're going to be using in this course to write our Java programs. So we're going to go and open a browser again, and we need to go to jetbrains.com. JetBrains is the company that have created this IntelliJ IDEA product. Once you arrive on their website, hover over the Tools menu, come down here to IntelliJ IDEA, click on Download. I'm going to close down this little cookies pop-up. And you've got two options here to download IntelliJ. We've got the Community Edition, and we've also got the Ultimate Edition. Now, the Community Edition is free and open source, and that's going to be the one that I recommend you use in the course. But there's also this option, if you're a professional programmer, to use the Ultimate Edition. And that's actually commercial software, and you will get a free trial, but you'll need to buy this at some point. By default, the Ultimate Edition gives you 30 days or 30 days to trial it. And what I can do, if you go down to the last lecture in this course, I can give you an extra 90 days, courtesy of JetBrains, who've generously given me some coupon codes to pass on to students. So if you do want to try the Ultimate Edition for 120 days, by all means visit the last lecture in this course. But the Community Edition, which is free and doesn't need any coupon, is going to be the one that I recommend you download and use. So I'm going to click on Download. I'm going to save that, which will go to my Downloads folder. Alright, we should be able to see that's downloading, so we'll just give that a moment to finish. And by the way, the Ultimate Edition has got lots of extra tools and capabilities, and as I mentioned, it's aimed at professional developers. So there may be a reason down the line if you're just starting out with Java to buy it, but certainly now you can start off, as I've done here, and download the free Community Edition. Alright, so I'm going to pause the video now and we'll come back once the download has completed. Alright, so as you can see now, the download has completed. So I'm going to close down this browser, we no longer need that. And what I'm going to do, you can go to the command line if you want to unzip it that way. I'm just going to go to the File Manager, and I'm going to go into the Downloads folder, and I'm just going to right-click the IDEA, download the file that we downloaded, and I'm going to click on Extract here, and that will automatically extract the contents out. You can see we've now got a folder there now, and what I'm going to do is move that into another folder. Now, you can actually move the files wherever you like, but what I'm going to do is create a subfolder off my home folder called Software and put IntelliJ in there as a subfolder. But it's up to you as to which or where you would like to place it. So to do that, I'm just going to right-click that and click on Move To. And I'm going to go to my home folder, Parallels in this case, and I'm going to create a new folder first. I'm going to call it Software. Create. And I'm going to put the folder in there. So click on Select. And if we go and have a look now, go back to Home and have a look in Software, we can see we've got an IntelliJ subfolder there. Now again, you can do this from the command line. I'm going to right click and I click on Open in Terminal for that folder. I'm going to close down the File Manager. We don't need that anymore. Okay, we're going to go into the folder there. It's going to be in the bin folder. Go into the IDE folder first, and then we go into the bin folder. And what we're going to do is run the IDE.sh. Depending on your installation of Linux, you may have to set the execute attributes for IDE.sh, but in my case, it's ready to go. So I can just type full stop or period /IDE.sh. And I'm going to type space ampersand so that it doesn't tie up the command window. And that should start IntelliJ now. And I'm just going to minimize the window for now. Now, you'll get this option when you first install IntelliJ or anytime you install a new version. It's asking, have we got a custom location where we can import some configuration options from IntelliJ from a previous installation. In this case, it's a brand new install, and you can see Do Not Import Settings is automatically selected. So I'm just going to go with that and click on OK. You've got this privacy policy that may or may not pop up. Have a read of that and just scroll down to the end and click on Accept. This is the data sharing option. If you're happy to send anonymous statistics or data about the features and plugins used, etc., then you can click on Send Usage Statistics. I'm going to select Don't Send. Next, we've got the theme that we'd like to use for IntelliJ. We've got Darkular selected by default, which you can see is a dark background. I'm going to select IntelliJ with the white background, but that's a personal preference. Noting you've also got GTK Plus as an option here, and you can also go into settings at a later time and override or change those settings anyway. I'm going to click on Next to Desktop Entry. Now we do want a desktop entry. You'd normally want that. And that saves you having to try and start IntelliJ from the command line like you saw me do. So I'm going to leave that default option there checked to create a desktop entry. And obviously you click and check for all users if you actually want every user to be able to start IntelliJ. I'm going to leave that off for now. And click on Launch a Script. This gives you an option to run IntelliJ from the command line. If you spend a lot of your time in the command line, it's very useful to be able to just type ideas space and then a file name and have it open up. So I'm going to select that and just check that checkbox. And you can accept the default location for where the script would be created. I'm just going to leave it on USR local bin. Click on Next to Default Plugins. By default, there's a series of plugins that IntelliJ customize for you. We're not going to be using these specifically in the course, and we don't need to make any changes because they are actually installed anyway. So you can see I'm going to leave it as is and click on Next to Featured Plugins. Here we've got the option to download 3 featured plugins. All 3 of these we won't be using. You could install IDE Features Trainer if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave them all uninstalled and click on Start Using IntelliJ IDEA. We need to enter our authentication details because I selected the option to create a script so we could run it from the command line. So I'm going to type in my password. You can see IntelliJ has now been or it's now started. So I'm going to close it down. Just to confirm now, I can open this up again. Up here now, if I type IntelliJ, you can see a couple of letters there for IntelliJ. We've now got our desktop entry. I can click on that to actually start it anytime I like now. All right, so this is IntelliJ IDEA installed. We've got a few configuration things or steps that we need to take still. Firstly, we need to associate the Java Development Kit. So we need to connect IntelliJ to the Java Development Kit that we installed in the previous video so that it can communicate and actually execute or compile and execute our Java programs. To do that, we can click on Configure. We want to select Project Defaults, and then select Project Structure. This gives us this option here, and depending on your installation of Linux, it may or may not find the installation. You can see in this case, in fact, it's found the installation. And if you come down here and click on SDKs, you can see that it's found the JDK11 in the USR-lib JVM folder. But just in case it isn't found on your system, I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to show you the process you would normally follow to install it manually. So coming back to Project, you'll have an option there, and there's now no other options. You'll click on New, select JDK. Now you'd navigate to the USR lib JVM and then whatever the subfolder name is, in this case JDK11, noting that IntelliJ found that for us. Click on OK, and noting that that's now slightly different. It does say Java version 11 instead of just 11. And then the other thing to do here is under Project Language Level, that should be selected at the same level as the JDK that we've installed. So Java version 11, we need to come down here and make sure this is set to version 11 as well. And what we're doing there is making sure that the features of the latest version of Java, 11 in this case, are going to work in IntelliJ because we've told it to support those versions, or that language level, if you will, which is the latest version of Java. You'll get this little pop-up, which will probably disappear in the future. It's come up because the JDK 11 is so new. Click on Accept in any case, and we click on OK. And we've now configured the Java Development Kit. Now there's a few last minute things that we need to configure, which are once-off settings, which makes life a little bit easier when you're using IntelliJ. So let's do that before we end the video. So to do the configuring, I'm going to click on Configure, and I'm going to click on Settings. Now come down here and click on the little triangle to the left of Editor, and click it again to the left of General. And the first option we want to click is Auto Import. We want to check both of these boxes, add unambiguous imports on the fly and optimize imports on the fly for current project. Now we'll talk more in later videos as to what these are doing, but basically it's just making life a little bit easier when you're typing in code. The next option down here we want to select is appearance. You want to make sure show line numbers is checked. And you can see that is checked, and that again makes life a little bit easier, and you'll see that in action in future videos. And the final option we want to select down here is under code folding. Click on that. Then we want to deselect or uncheck imports if it's checked. So let's unchecked for imports, unchecked for one-line methods, unchecked for closures, and finally unchecked for generic constructor and method parameters. So what we're doing here is we're deselecting code folding, which is basically saying that we want to see all the code. We don't want IntelliJ IDEA to hide any of the code. When you start getting more experience with Java, you'll often want to hide parts of the code that you're very familiar with, and that's what this does by default, but we're turning those options off so that early on we get to see all the code and we don't have to click extra buttons to look at that hidden code. All right, so I'm going to click on OK at this point, and that then saves those settings, and they should be good to go. And at this point, we're actually completed. So we've now configured IntelliJ IDEA, we've connected it to the Java Development Kit, and we've also made a few changes to settings to make our experience with Java a little bit easier when we're first starting out. We're now ready to move on to the next video. Now in that next video, the one immediately after this one, we're going to start looking at our first program, our first steps. So we're going to create our first Java program. So I'll see you in that next video.